The Greatest Beggar in China. Chapter 1. In 1838, during the Qing dynasty, a little boy was born in Shandong province, China. Because his family was very poor and his parents were uneducated, he was named Wu Qi, as he was the seventh child in the family. Qi means seven in Chinese. When Wu Qi was 7, his father died, and his mother had to support the family alone. Because they needed food, Wu Qi and his brothers and sisters had to go out and beg. One day, Wu Qi walked by a school and saw kids his age in a classroom studying. He asked someone nearby, "What are they doing?" The person answered, "They are studying. If you study, you can become an official. Then you will have enough food and clothes, and you won't have to beg anymore." A simple answer surprised Wu Qi. From that day on, he secretly saved all the coins he got from begging. After getting a small bag of coins, Wu Qi happily ran to the school and said to the teacher, "I want to study." The teacher looked at the bag Wu Qi gave him, then, with a bad face, held it between two fingers and threw it away, saying, "A beggar wants to study? Get out of here." After this bad experience, Wu Qi knew he would never get a chance to study. He quietly picked up his bag of coins and went back to begging on the streets. 7 years later, Wu Qi was already a young man. Although he came from a poor family, he was strong and healthy. He went to a landlord's house and asked to work for him. The landlord saw that Wu Qi was honest and strong, so he signed a 3-year agreement with him. Even though Wu Qi only earned a little money each month, it was much better than his life as a beggar. At least he no longer had to move around. Wu Qi liked his new life and worked hard for the landlord. After a while, Wu Qi saw a problem. He had no place to keep his money. The landlord paid him every month, but Wu Qi didn't want to spend it. He saved it all. While working, he carried the money with him, which made it hard to do his job. He couldn't hide it at his home because he lived with other workers, and it was easy for someone to take it. After thinking for a long time, Wu Qi had an idea. He went to the landlord and asked if he could write a guarantee. This way, Wu Qi's monthly pay could be kept with the landlord, and he could get it all back after 3 years. The landlord was happy with Wu Qi's suggestion and quickly wrote a guarantee for him. From then on, Wu Qi's pay was saved with the landlord for 3 years. When the agreement ended, Wu Qi got ready to take his money back home. In those 3 years, he saved a lot, enough to buy some land, build a big house, and even marry a wife. However, when Wu Qi went to the landlord quickly became angry and said his pay had already been given. When Wu Qi saw that the landlord didn't want to pay, he showed him the guarantee the landlord had written. But the landlord said, "What is this? It's just a couple of lines of poetry I wrote. Where did you get this?" Wu Qi couldn't read. He thought the guarantee with the landlord's name was real, but he didn't know he was being fooled. As he stood there without giving up, the landlord wrongly called him a liar and told others to beat him up. When Wu Qi heard the landlord say he was lying, it felt like a shock. After 3 years of hard work for the landlord, he had nothing and was wrongly called a liar. This event greatly changed Wu Qi, and he became sick, not eating or drinking for 3 days. After this, he understood that without learning, it's very hard to live. Maybe during these 3 days, Wu Qi had a new thought. He found his goal in life: to build a school so that more children from poor families could learn to read and write. Chapter 2. When Wu Chi was 14, he worked for a landlord's family, but after 3 years, he didn't earn any money, so his work was for nothing. To stay alive and follow his dreams, he picked up his old begging bowl and started traveling through Shandong, Jiangsu, Hebei, and Hunan. In that time, begging was a hard way to earn money. But Wu Chi was different. He would exchange what he got for coins and save them, while eating only the lowest quality food and singing. Eating leftovers can be a meal, saving money to build a school. He wanted to start a school, but he knew he couldn't just beg. So during busy farming times, Wu Chi helped rich farm owners gather their crops. Because he was young and worked hard, many landlords liked to use him. When the farming was done, Wu Chi would help a street show. He couldn't do tricks, but he could play a small part. For example, in the act of breaking stones on his body, Wu Chi would lie down with a stone on his body while someone else hit it. This trick was not always safe. Sometimes, if his partner hit too hard, the stone would break, but Wu Chi could get seriously hurt. Besides this, Wu Chi was ready to do anything to make money. Once, a group of people was making a bet on who would be willing to eat a scorpion for a prize. No one wanted to do it, even as the prize got bigger. Then someone saw Wu Chi begging and said, "Beggar, if you will eat a scorpion, you can have all this money." Without thinking, Wu Chi picked up the scorpion and ate it. Besides scorpions, he had also eaten stones and tiles, all to earn a little money. For over 20 years in both Shandong and Hunan, people often saw a very dark beggar who wore old clothes but was very happy. By the time Wu Chi was 49, he had bought a lot of land for his school and had also saved more than 3,800 coins with Mr. Yang. This was a lot of money for that time, making Wu Chi quite rich and a big landowner. However, he didn't enjoy his wealth and chose to keep living a poor life. Chapter 3. Even though Wu Chi had a lot of money, starting a school was very expensive, and he still didn't have enough. The biggest problem was that Wu Chi was a beggar. Would anyone want to teach if he was the head of a school? Would students come to learn? To set up the school, Wu Chi needed to find a good person. He thought of a wise and honest man named Yang Shufang, who had helped him keep his money safe because he was worried about losing it, as he had before when he was a worker. Wu Chi went to Yang's house to ask for help. At first, Yang Shufang didn't want to let him in because he was a beggar. But Wu Chi didn't give up. He knelt at Yang's door for 2 whole days, which finally moved the wise man. When Wu Chi shared his plan to use his begging savings to build a school, Yang Shufang was very touched. He offered to help Wu Chi keep his money safe and to help him start the school. In 1888, Wu Chi spent over 4,000 cash coins using all his savings to build the first school in his hometown of Lulintown, Tongyi County. The school was named Chongxian Yishu. 2 years later, he worked with Liao Zhong, a respected monk, to start the second school in a village, Guantao County. In 1896, with help from some officials and rich people, Wu Chi spent over 3,000 cash coins to open the third school in Yusher Alley, Linqing County. A beggar spent his whole life on a dream, and this is really nice. Wu Chi's respect for the teachers at the school is even better. Every year on the first day of school, Wu Chi would first pay respects to the teachers and then the students. He did this for many years. When he had a party for the teachers, Wu Chi invited local famous people and important guests to join, but he stayed outside the door. Once the food was served, Wu Chi would come in and bow to the teachers to show his thanks. After the party was over and everyone had left, he would go into the room to eat the leftover food. With the head of school like him, the teachers must have been great, and the students probably did well too. This is how a beggar who spent his whole life asking for food became a well known teacher with many successful students. Soon, the officer of Shandong found out about this. He ordered that the taxes on the school land be removed and gave Wu Chi some money to support his work. Wu Chi later changed his name to Wu Sun, a name given to him by the officer. When the high officers in China learned about what Wu Chi did, they were surprised. At that time, the Qing government was already in trouble, but during such hard times, a beggar was doing good things, which was not easy. On April 23rd, 1896, Wu Sun died in the school on Yusher Alley at the age of 59. While he was very sick the same year the third school opened, he lived in the school but slept outside. He didn't want to use a room because those rooms held all his hopes. According to history, Wu Chi died with a smile while listening to the students read their lessons. He felt hope in their voices, imagining a future where poor children would not be laughed at for not being able to read.